This episode is brought to you by Absolute Landscapes. Absolute Landscapes is a landscape maintenance company that focuses heavily on commercial property maintenance. Call today for information about the services we provide and how we can best help you. 803 427 5944.
Where is that in relation?
So west of Chicago, east of North Dakota and South Dakota,
Okay, yeah.
on the
I've
Canadian
never,
border, very top.
yeah. I've never been up in that area. I've driven across the entire U.S. I've actually never been out of the U.S. That's one of the goals that I have is to travel outside the U.S. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Minnesota might be a little too cold for me. I don't know how the weather is up there.
If you don't like cold weather, I'm going to say yes. You don't want to come
Yeah,
here, especially
man.
anytime after October
Oh yeah,
until April. Yeah.
yeah. Well, see, down in South Carolina, we have the summers, the brutal summers, the humid heat and that kind of thing. I mean, maybe it's not, I guess it's brutal is subjective, but it depends on where you're from. But, a lot of people move from up north down here, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida area.
Yeah.
So,
Snowbirds.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, I'm really excited to talk to you. I'm really thrilled about this conversation. I know we're going to get into some good stuff here. If you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and kind of bring us up to speed for those who don't already know, just anything that you want to share that you feel is relevant, we'll dive in.
So my name, as you know, is Rory Londer. I live in Rochester, Minnesota. And a quick kind of bio is I spent 17 years of my life in addiction, and it was a result of, I had a lot of loss. I came home and found my father passed, and then lost my mother, my best friend, and my grandpa all in about a 3 to 4 year period. And I had always been a recreational user, and that's the thing. I never like to speak to judge. I don't have any solid set opinions on anything. I really don't. I just know myself, my story, and what happened for me. And what it was is these recreational use, smoking a little pot, drinking, did a little coke once in a while. I was surfing up the East Coast at one point in my life, and nothing ever got out of hand. But when these things happened in my life, something changed. And when I began to use my recreational using drugs that were always just recreational, never a problem. I was never one of those people. I did it one time, I became an addict, and my life was wrecked since. No, I made it all through my high school. I remember going to a college, even messing around, and it wasn't a problem. But something happened when I had all that pain, and when I used something that did something for me, I didn't realize that it could. But in all fairness, I'd never had been through that stuff. And that turned into the next 17 years of my life. During the next 17 years of my life, Cody, I lived in the homeless shelters. I lived in the shelters in Minneapolis, in Hastings, Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota. And towards the end of my homeless, drug addicted, alone, scared, fearful career, I ended up in the town that I'm still in today, Rochester, Minnesota. And I would spend time when the shelters were full. There was this laundromat in our town, down in the corner, on the main drag of our town. And it wasn't a very nice laundromat. I mean, everything was broken inside, and there's shit hanging from the walls, and didn't smell nice. But it was open 24 hours. And so on these wonderful cold nights that we talked about in Minnesota, I would go down to the laundromat when the shelter was full, and I'd sit in there, and I'd curl up to a little dryer. Or, if I got lucky, that's what I always told people. There was a dryer that was still warm, and I'd kind of sit up next to that. It's like, oh man, this is good. I'm living large. And the dynamic of my story is 13 years later, after I sobered up, 13 to 14 years later, I bought that laundromat. I bought the same laundromat that I slept in, homeless, no family, didn't know anybody in this town. Nobody helped me. Grandma didn't die and leave me $6,000 to help put a down payment on a commercial loan. Nothing. And I purchased that laundromat and created a $1.5 million business a year in that same laundromat that I slept in. Amazing. And people I meet every day. I speak in schools, I speak in churches, I speak in treatment centers, halfway houses, podcasts. I did a festival the other weekend. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm here. I could smell the pot, and I think people are probably taking Cybacillin and doing whatever. So I kind of structured my speaking engagement a little, but I had a blast. It's a great time. But I've been blessed with all these speaking engagements. And the best thing that I can tell you is there's people out there everywhere. And everybody's got a story, Cody. And people want to judge before they hear their story. And that's the sad part, I think, about our world. And myself, I've caught myself at times. And then someone tells me what their situation is, and I think, oh my God, I shouldn't have been thinking that, was I. But I think the key thing is this, that everybody has a story. And regardless of what it is, my story, somehow, some way, in the last 7 months since this wonderful book has been released, that this lady at our local ALC, which is a school where kids that are experiencing difficulties in high school in many different ways end up at, where I was going in there, and these students were going to the teachers like, this is awesome. It removed that doubt that, oh, I can't and I'll never. And, in our world, as a point I'm making, getting across here, I'm a felon. I'll never be able to own a business. I'll never be able to do this. I'll never do that. I was homeless. I'll never have anything. My parents died when I was young. I'll never make it or become anything in life. Bullshit. I came from nothing. I begged for fucking quarters on the corner, man. Quarters, dimes, nickels. Let me get your change. And I've created this business, exceeded anything that I ever dreamed of. I mean, I got to a point as it was going along, and it wasn't ever about the money. It was just about being successful, about having carrying myself with integrity, being proud of who I am, looking in the fucking mirror and being proud of who I am for the first time in 20 years. And man, if anyone out there, you think you can't do this or you can't or you'll never, bullshit. Send me a message on Messenger. I'm just call me. Now, I've been telling this in podcasts and speaking engagements. Shit, people are doing it all the time, man. I get Messenger messages every day. I heard you speak at this event. Some of these events I go to, there are 1,000 people, and I'm standing up, and I'm like, I'm not even a very smart dude. And I'm like, who am I to be standing up here? God, what can I carry to them? And I think what's special in it isn't about me and what I'm telling them or about being smart. It's my story. It's my story of where I came from, and I made it, and that others can too. And your past doesn't define you. You don't have to let it define you. I don't give a shit what you've been through in your life. I don't care what even happened to you as a child. And if something did, I'm sorry. I really am. But don't let it define you. You've got to carry on. You pick your head up, you lift your chin up, and go fucking be a part of. And quit sitting in that little dungeon, dark little corner, basement, or at the bar, whatever it is you're doing. And even if it's one thing each day, just one step, one motion, even if it's just getting up, or maybe you want to get healthy and you don't want to go to a gym, but you will walk down to the stop sign and back. Yay, just something. You got to start somewhere. Or maybe it's just walking to the end of the driveway, just something. Because I think in that, when we do things like that and come from this negative, dark place that many of us have, our own secrets, we start to have this almost encouragement. You start to feel good. It does something. There's a dynamic to it. And that's why people do it with every situation, everything, everywhere in the world. It's almost, you feel uplifted. You feel this new energy, a happiness. In recovery, they talk about being happy, joyous, and free. It does. It's amazing. So that's a long bio of me, but
it's incredible, man. And I love the energy. And I think we're already off to a good start. I know we're going to have a great conversation here. So do you mind if I call you Rory? Can I call you Rory? Is that okay?
Yep. That's it, Rory.
So Rory, I'm going to be completely honest here, and I hope I don't offend you because this is the first time that I'm telling you this. I hope you're not offended by what I'm saying, and also because of the fact this is a surprise. But because we didn't talk about this before now. But
it's okay.
Typically, when I talk to somebody about coming on the podcast, usually if they have a course or a program or a book or something along those lines, I usually shy away from people like that because I feel like the conversation is mostly going to be had to promote the thing and not have a authentic conversation. But when you and I talked, I didn't really feel that. I was almost drawn to you, and I was drawn to your story, and I wanted to know more about it. So I got your book, man, and I've been reading this thing. I read the whole thing, and let me tell you, dude, what the fuck, man? Like, this has been one of the most incredible lives I've ever read about in my life. I mean, there are things in here. I got a lot of notes I want to talk to you about, but it's like, dude, you how the hell how are you even like where you're at right now? I mean,
no. Let me chime in before I get too fucking emotional. when you have a team of oncology doctors at the greatest fucking hospital in the world, the Mayo Clinic, and not Mayo Clinic Phoenix and not Mayo Clinic Jacksonville, Florida, Mayo Clinic Rochester, Minnesota, where when you have a team of 13 oncologist doctors, and this isn't even about the homelessness and the addiction, all the shit that you've read about that you're going to share, I'm sure. This is about even today. I live with stage 4 lung cancer. This team will line up in front of me and they look at me and they look down at their notepads and they look at each other and they look down and they're like, we can't explain science-wise, scientifically, how you're here. And I sit here and think, man, if you fuckers even knew me, you even knew the shit I've been through. I don't either. But the term they use is called an outlier. I'm 2 to 3% in the world. And in the records that they carry, there's only 3 patients in Mayo records in their oncology cancer department that have lived past 4 years, or past, actually it was 2 years, with stage 4 lung cancer, specifically non-small cell carcinoma. It's all through my body, my pelvic, my spine, in my lung and over my heart, pushing on my trachea. And here I'm running around. I was demoing. I bought a flip house, another flip house. I've been demoing all morning before I went on your show for 4 hours with a couple of guys that I picked up from the local halfway house, because I insist on continuing to help people, continuing to pick these little fuckers up. Some do good, some don't. But, someone did that for me one day. Someone took the time and they picked me up and gave me a little $12 an hour, whatever it was. And I bought an energy drink and cigarettes or whatever the hell it was. But it helped make a difference. And as you read, it was these connections, these relationships with these people changed me. It gave me hope again. It made me feel good. It gave me, the ability to walk with my head up and, my chin up and feel like a man again, instead of with a hood over my head down, walking the streets like I'm, fucking looking for my next little hustle, how I can get a couple of dollars, like a little skis. And I was, and I'm going to call it for what it is. I told you before your show, I'm going to be honest with you. And that's what it was. I would do just about anything to get $1. I was a sad, our recovery talks about an unlovely creature. Yeah, I was unlovely. I was definitely fucking unlovely. So
I don't even know how to even, because there's so much I want to talk about. So I guess to start with, this is kind of the main thing. I hear, at least this is what I hear, and I mean, I'm sure you can share on this and elaborate more, but I hear from a lot of people who have struggled with some sort of addiction. It's like there is, it's almost like there's not a fulfillment somewhere in that part. Like something is missing, like something, whether it's a pain that needs to be numbed or whether it's a lack of purpose. I think that's a big one that I hear a lot but something is not there that should be. And one of the things, and by the way, for anybody listening, if you're going to read this book, you've been warned, this is a spoiler alert. So we're going to refer to some of the things in here, but, you mentioned several times in this book that you didn't know where you wanted to be, but you knew this wasn't it.
yes.
And so when I read that, it's almost like a sense of being lost. It's almost like, because it sounded like you were conscious of the fact that you did not want to be there. Like all these things happened to you, being in this life, you didn't want to be there. You just didn't maybe know where to go. Is that right? Or where you wanted to be?
Yeah. So I had to, again and again in this, my life story, it's about, I don't know what I want, but it's not this, I don't know where I don't want it, where I want to be, but it's not here, but that's it. And I'd be sitting in jail, or I'd be sitting in the bottom of a crack house in, the wrong part of town in a predominantly black neighborhood. And I'm a little white, 120-pound kid with my little crack stem with prostitutes down in the basement of a crack house. And all the prostitutes, I mean, they never even called me Rory. My name was White Boy Fred or Crackhead Fred. Hey, Crackhead Fred. They'd yell from the streets and whatnot. And I'm roaming around. And there was this one guy in there, Oscar, that you read about. And it's like, I was about to get jumped one night. I look back and I see these 2 dudes coming up. And they were coming. And I knew, like, God, man, I'm about to get my ass kicked. And I always keep my money under my sole in my shoe. I take my shoe off, the sole out, put my little $14 or $13, just enough to get a 20 rock, put that back in and try and head up to the crack house at like 2:33 in the morning. Again, in the wrong part of town for a little white dude walking down the street, just jonesed out. And how I'm alive today. But all these situations, all these times in the bottom of a crack house where I had a gun pointed to my head, where another house got shot up, or the Crips and the Bloods were having a little dispute, and they were serving out of this house, and the other gang had their girls in a house. They called it a breeder house because it was where all their women were that they got pregnant that had kids. And again, I'm this little white dude in this wrong neighborhood, and all of a sudden a shootout goes, and it's like The Godfather, the glass where everything's going out, the windows and shit, and I'm ducking down right below a window, and everything settles, and I can see a hole of light coming through right where a bullet went, and I heard the bullet go across my head, and I could see the light shining through. And it was one of those moments in my journey where, exactly, I don't know what I want, but the fucking this ain't it. And like, something has to happen. And I didn't know that it was that of a spiritual nature, and that's not religious. Careful with that word, of a spiritual nature, of something. And to me, I've been allowed in hundreds, I can say now, hundreds of men's lives, and actually one woman. People don't like to hear that, but she was she didn't like boys, and she didn't want a woman sponsor. She had some past history, and so I sponsored her, and hell, she's still sober today. So I don't care if people are mad at me. But anyhow, these men, that similarity about, that desire to want something different. And of all these hundreds of men, Cody, I've met men who have a belief in God, Moses, Jesus, Great Spirit, Buddha, Allah. And I'll tell you what, these men have taken me to these different places. And I'm not here to draw a pin or nothing. All I know, I've been in every one of them. I felt some shit on my arm, and I don't know what they got going on. It may not be what I do, but it's some cool shit, and it's working for them, and they're still sober. So in recovery, one of those things, I don't know what I want, but it's not this. One part of it was finding that something, a higher power, or something greater than me, or some type of spirituality or whatever. And the great thing to me when I was introduced is that it could be anything. Because if I had got someone said, you got to do this and go to this place and go to this building and give money and they go there, fuck, I would have ran the other way. Or I would have figured out how to get that money out of that basket. Like, all right, after that basket goes around, who's getting that? Where's that going? Oh, it's going back there in that room. I wonder what they're doing back there. There's something wrong with me, man. It took me years to change my ways, but all through my journey, and it was, horror story, jail after jail after jail. A Mexican jail. I got put in a Mexican jail in Cancun, Mexico. After 2 years of sobriety, one time I fell off, and I'm down in Cancun, and I've done some stupid shit, man. When you read my book, people tell me, God, Rory, as I'm reading, it's like, is this guy ever going to get it? You start doing good or whatever, and wham. Like, he's not a bright dude. And that's what I love today, that I can sit and say to encourage others. I'm not a bright dude. So if you think, I didn't do well in school and I'll never be able to become shit. Oh, fuck you. You know what? Quit. And I'm serious. Then you need to messenger me. Find me on Facebook and start talking. Bullshit. I didn't fucking do good either. I have this drive. And here's the irony. Here's the trick, how I trick all these men in the world. When we were fucking getting high, we got up 5 days a week, 7 days a week. Some guys will come in. I was a meth addict. I got high for 22 days straight, didn't sleep. These guys got all these great, grandiose stories. But now they got problem working a fucking 8-hour day at Subway. You could go back and live in the street. You're mad about working an 8-hour shift and getting a fucking $800 check at the end of the week? That's a problem? Making, $3,200 a month? I don't care if you're making $12 an hour. That's a fucking problem? Then you'll never make it. Because you sat and told me how you got high, fucking 22 days straight, running around, fucking trying to get dollar up at a time. And now you're sober, living in a halfway house, and you got a chance at life, and you can fucking go work a shitty job and make $800 a week, which will more than pay for apartment and start paying out some of the shit you fucked up. I think they call it restitution. All of us that have been there knows that name. But I'm serious. And that's hard for you? Well, then you're lying to yourself. If you can't fucking be honest with yourself, you won't make it. And in recovery, we have these coins, these little round coins. People give them out, and it doesn't matter if it's NA or AA or whatever the fuck it is. But something. Don't go sit and do things your way. When you rewind the camera and you look at the last 3 years or 4 years of your life, how you've been doing things, I don't know, I'm not trying to be a dick, but it looks like you fucking suck, dude. Because fucking you've been in and out of jail, in and out of treatments. Everybody around you's crying. Your mama's still wondering where you are at night. Maybe it's time to do something different. That's all I'm saying. Maybe it's time to do something different. So on the back of those coins, it says, to thine own self be true. Ooh. Those are some of the biggest words, buddy, in this whole recovery life and trying to get yourself right. And I don't care if it's recovery, weight, physical fitness, to thine own, sexual relationship, to thine own self be true. When we can't even fucking be honest with ourselves, that's a bad place to be. When I can't look at myself, because here's the dynamic in it. I'm going to give you one of my secrets. I can't do something about something that don't exist. Here's a water bottle. This is right here, and I look you right in the eye, and I look Cody in the eye and say, what do you mean, dude? No, there ain't no water bottle there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't do something about something that don't exist. And even if I'm a little fucking liar, and I'm saying that, but when I can go like this and say, hey, yeah, whatever. Yeah, man. So yeah, I might have a little water bottle. There it is. You can even fucking be shy like that, but it's a start. And that's all it takes. All you need is a fucking humble beginning. Or even a more clear example. Yeah, I can be a little bit of a dick sometimes. Yay. Good. Now at least maybe you can fucking get better. Because when you sit there, not what? I'm not a dick. What do you mean? Fuck, she was. I didn't do shit. You know what, dude? You're always going to be a fucking dick because you can't even man up. You want to talk about separating the men from the boys? You want to man up? Get honest about your shit. Hey, I have, and here again, we can be humble. I have a little room for improvement. You know what? That's pretty fucking cocky, but I'll take it. That's a start. That's a fucking start. And with any addiction, any problem, anything you're fighting in your life, at least have that humble beginning. Like, you know what? Maybe my marriage isn't that great. Yay! Good. Now you can maybe start looking at it thinking, okay, what can I do? Yeah, I have been working a lot. I know she's mad I come home late and I'm not there to have dinner. And maybe I need to do a little less time at the gym and be the whatever it is. Everyone's got a story. But we got to fucking start like that. And if we don't get pissed off when shit don't change. When you're fucking miserable a year later or 6 months later, cut it out. To thine own self be true. That's on you, fucker. Come on. Pick yourself up. And we don't have to do this perfect. That's the other thing. I'm not here to blast on, everyone should try this and be so fucking great. Oh, my life's up and down. But at least put some effort into it. We put effort into all these things in our life. And everyone else can tell a story. Everyone's got this, oh, dude, I work out all the time. I'm super serious about it. Oh, my God, I'm building this boat. And I'm there. I spend every weekend at the shop working on it. Or I'm doing this or my garden. Hey, what you been putting into your marriage? What you been putting into your business? What you've been putting into your physical self or whatever it is that you're not happy with. What are you putting into it? You're putting all this time in this other shit, but you're not putting time into that. And you're wondering, don't look me in the eye ever and wonder. I'm wondering why things just aren't going that good. Oh, come on. Now, when you can look me in the eye and say, hey, I'm doing everything that I can and it still sucks. Okay, now maybe you got a fucking problem. Okay, but when we're just fucking pussyfooting around it and bullshitting, that's the part for addicts, people like myself. That's the stuff we used for so many years that now we almost have to master that, Cody. We really do. We have to master that kind of thinking or we'll go use again. And these are things I've learned on my journey. And keep in mind, anything I say today, all these things I've learned from other people. And you've read it in the book, Indian Mike, all these great people. And some, they weren't nice to me. They're like how I'm talking to. They're kind of assholes. They're rah, rah. They're yelling like, God, shut up, dude. You're a jerk off. And now, 20 years later, I'm like, oh my God, these little fuckers, these assholes saved my life. They made me look at myself for who I really was in a roundabout way. They were like tricky about it. They were like a better hustler than I was. And I am forever grateful. Glenn Pierce, Burdette, Indian Mike. And all three of them are gone, but they saved my life.
Yeah, so I think the self-authenticity is extremely important. I don't think you can't know where you're going to go or end up there if you don't even know where you're starting yet. So I think the ability to be honest with yourself and real with yourself. I mean, that's probably one of the big reasons I would think that you're able to be where you're at today and overcome all this stuff, because you have to see that the problem is there. I get that 100%. I want to back up for a second. You were talking about in the book your trip to Mexico. Dude, I was reading that page right there, and I just wanted to reach through that. First of all, I wanted to reach through that book and slap whatever the tray was out of this guy's hand. This just buffet that
in the
was
cigar
there.
shop, yeah.
And
it was all real. None of it was no funk either. It was all real shit. I've never seen that many.
And I wanted to ask you, I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, you know, you're on a good run here. But I mean, I guess this is just part of the process. This was just part of the story that you know, you were going to experience. But yeah, I read that and I was like, oh my God, man, because you're right. It was the 2 years sober, you know, had all these great things going, a job and everything. But and then you also said something too that I want to touch on, which is that, you know, we talked about it being a lack of purpose, or maybe not a lack of purpose, the not knowing what your purpose is. People just feel lost in this addiction thing. Maybe that's one of the things that's fueling it. And I want to be careful with saying fueling it, because that's a kind of a separate thing. But there's this lack of purpose, or maybe this pain that needs to be numbed. Or I think you mentioned in your book there was a quietness. It made your mind kind of quiet, made things quiet for you, just this sort of calm. But yeah, you're right. People who, especially people, it seems like, who have an alcohol or drug addiction, I mean, they're some of the most motivated people on the planet. So it's not about motivation or drive. I mean, because you're exactly right. They'll get out and do what they have to do, you know, go from person to person, whatever it is, to get what they need to do. So it's not about motivation. It's not about being lazy. It's not about the lack of drive. It's about this. If you can just take that drive and direct it into a place that's maybe, you know, much more productive. I think, and that's, of course, that looks like it's what you've done with this business and everything. And so, yeah, I think that's just an important point. But yeah, you were talking about the starting point, the self-authenticity, just being able to have that conversation with yourself. And, you know, you hear people just from the outside looking in, well, you can't help the person if they don't want to help themselves. You know, they have this problem, this thing going on, and, you know, you do this for them and you try to help them, but at the end of the day, they relapse or do whatever they do. And it's like, but does that person see a problem? You know, does that, and it's not even this is not even about addiction. This is about anything you want to improve in your life, whether it's a business, a relationship, or anything. You have to know where you're starting. You have to be able to be honest with yourself and say, okay, I'm starting right here. That's not ideal, but, you know, it at least it opens up the possibility to improve, because you can't improve if you think that you're already perfect to begin with. I mean,
correct. Yeah, you can't do something again about something that doesn't exist, and it's in that person's mind. But I don't think I have a problem. Like, I don't think I talk too much. And oh God, do I? I talk too much, Cody. I do. And now with all this speaking, it's horrible. And my poor wife, she's like, oh my God. I'm like, oh honey, I'm so sorry. But you know, we learn in recovery about honesty and willing, and you have to be honest and willing, and that's it. It doesn't say about being smart, perfect, doing it right. You can't fuck up. I've never read that anywhere. And of course, I've done all of those, so I can still do all those and make mistakes and still be here. But to be willing, open, and honest, you know, willingness is the key. Rigorous honesty, they talk about it. That's hardcore for someone that lied about every little thing all the time just because it became natural and instinctive. It's horrible, but I knew I didn't want to keep living the way that I was, and I wanted something different. And in order to get there, that's what I had to do. And then that drive, you talk about that these people, they have the drive, they have the ability. And that's what I've told people. And to refer back to that, I'm not the smartest guy you ever meet. I mean, I tell people, hang out with me for a day. You want to get some fucking hope? Spend a day with me. And you're going to think, what the fuck? If this guy can do it? And that's why I just insist on not changing and still swearing and wiggling when I talk. And, you know, I'm probably not the most handsome man and shit. I don't care, because, you know what? In my life now, it's made me more approachable. I go and speak at these events and this AA and NA treatment centers. I've gotten the prison system in Minnesota recently. My background check got approved, and I went to the first place. It was actually the women's prison in Shakopee, Minnesota. But people aren't, you know, in our world, someone comes with a suit and talks all proper and whatever. What the fuck do you think that does to people coming off the street and whatever? They're intimidated by it. They feel less than right away. I come in, wiggling, whatever, and I'm serious, and they're thinking, this motherfucker created a business, and he was and look at his life. Go on Facebook, check out his little wife. How the fuck is she with him? She's beautiful. I'm like, I know, and I'm not. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Just get right with yourself and get right with the people in the world and the people in it. That's it. Treat people right and be right with yourself. That's it. There's no fucking secret. And that's the hardest thing to do. It's like, that's the question. People think you got to get a different house and a different relationship and a new car. Oh no, I'm 53 years old. I'm here to tell the world, I think you all got it wrong. And I'm going to fight this to the end. No, you get right with yourself and you will have a life you've never fucking known and be happier than you've ever been. And it's never about stuff.
That's a really good point, man. Having somebody that's dressed up and looks nothing like you telling you need to improve your life. I mean, it's almost like immediately that comes across as confrontational.
Correct.
And so I think that's true though. I think that you're able to resonate with these people because of your self authenticity and your honesty with yourself. And I want to ask you about that because you said in the book that you said you didn't know where you wanted, but you didn't know where you wanted to be, but you knew this wasn't it. So with knowing that, why do you think it was so hard for you to be honest with yourself? Because you knew that you didn't want to be here. So it was almost like just hearing you talk, it was almost like it was a conflict with yourself. Like, you didn't want to be here, but at the same time, it sounds like you had a problem initially, just kind of being honest about that.
It was actually little simple things because it's I would go to a halfway house or a treatment center. I'd get out, I'd get a little job going, and I have some money, and then I'd be like, well, you know what I should do? I could just go check on Joe, who I used to smoke crack with, and just tell him about this newfound recovery that I have and how great it is, and go find him down in Hastings. He used to get a lot of crack. I used to get crack from him. So it's old saying, hey, if you go to the barber shop, you're probably going to get your hair cut. So I had to be honest with myself. So Rory, you just finished a 28-day program treatment, 3 months a halfway house. You feel better than you've ever felt. And for some fucking reason, you think you should go say hi to Joe? Are you kidding me? Who the fuck do you think you are? So you've gone all through. Then fine, do it. But don't sit and bitch and I can't stay sober and this and whine and poor me and all this shit. Then you better check yourself. I have no fucking business communicating with Joe in any way, shape, or form, even if he's fucking dying. Sadly, even though he might have been a friend of, it's probably best that I don't. Maybe I need to send his mother a message and say sorry about that, but I don't need to go near any of that. So I had to start getting honest with myself. That's where I talk, where I stress on that about all the little stuff. And for some reason, it was like, even in recovery, I'd be like, well, I'll be fine, or that'll be okay if I do that. I just start getting honest. No, it won't be. Well, maybe I can just have a couple wine coolers and I won't have Bacardi Cokes and I won't do cocaine and I'll just do that. Or maybe I'll just smoke a little weed. And some people can, our world's changed. Marijuana is like alcohol now, it's legal. I just speak for me. I can't have anything. I just went through a spine surgery a year ago, 2 years ago with the cancer tumor on my T11. And the doctor walked out and basically was like that tray in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So what do you want, Rory? Oxy, Percocet, prescribed marijuana. I needed to eat because the cancer, I was so small, wasn't eating. They're going to prescribe me pot. And I'm like, besides Tylenol 3, nothing. I'm not willing to chance. I'm not willing to take to thine own self be true. There's no fucking way. I can do scratchies. I can catch myself up at Lake of the Woods on the Canadian border fishing with my wife. We go up there every year in the lodge. And my wife's like, yeah, let's get a couple pull tabs or whatever they are. And so I get her some. And I can catch myself. There's something in me. And this is where it's about getting honest with yourself. There's something in me. And maybe you don't have it. And maybe my neighbor across the street doesn't have it. But I and a bunch of people I know do have it. And it's not a good thing. And I get this like excitement. And all of a sudden, it's almost like when you go in a casino, the little bells are ringing and lights are going on. Ding, 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 ding. Like something fucking happens up here, man. And it's not pretty and it's not favorable. And I'm not glad that I have it. And it's probably what that is, that addiction or that compulsive behavior or that yearn or drive or what have you. I don't know all the exact words for it, but it's there. So I have to be careful with anything. It can be sex. It can be money. It can be, more, just the concept of more. I want more stuff. I am not willing. So I don't want to say tiptoe, but I've carefully stepped through life today because I look at it that I'm on my home stretch. I'm on my, my latter years of my life. I don't want to go back to addiction and I have to be careful what I do. I have to be honest with myself. Do I think I should go take a trip to Cancun by myself just for old times? Tell my wife, I'll be fine. I'm just going to go alone and be good and I'll be okay. No. Should I go to Costa Rica? I actually did last winter for a couple, I did it just over a month. I was okay. My brother came, my wife came for a week. There were people around me, but I'm very careful. And the biggest, probably most important thing I can share, when you've had a bad day at work, things aren't going good with your wife, you're arguing. Some asshole at work's pissing you off or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're a little tight on funds this month and you got all this stuff going on. As an addict, do you think it's a good idea to go down to the local bar and hear your friend who plays in a band? You think you need to be there tonight? You probably shouldn't. And as you go through life as an addict or someone in recovery or something trying to fight food or a casino or whatever it is, sex, start to get honest with yourself. When we have these bad days, when we're, there's old saying in recovery, halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. There's some depth to that. When you're pissed off and you're having a bad day and all that, those are the days for me to recommend to you, don't fucking go do something. That's the day. Take your ass home and work out and go to bed. Drink your fucking energy drink or whatever you do, or your protein shake, and to put in a movie and go to bed. Don't go out. I'm going to go venture out into the world and do, be careful. That's how every story starts with. Every story in my life usually begins with all those scenarios I just said.
Mm-hmm.
I was fighting with my wife and not happy at work or whatever. And all of a sudden you got a pound of fucking cocaine and you're doing 12 years for making a bad choice. And these are buddies of mine locked up right now.
Yeah, I think, man, this, and I can't stress on this enough. This self-awareness and this self-honesty. I think this is one of the reasons you've been able to be successful with this battle with this thing. I don't know who said this, but one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard about addiction is, no matter how far you drive, you're always the same distance from the ditch.
Yeah.
And so, whether that's 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, I mean, you have you just have to understand, like you're talking about right here, this self-honesty with yourself and saying, this is still, it doesn't matter. It's not a good decision for you to make. I mean, it's not, and I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe it didn't, again, this is from the outside looking in, but maybe, once you're into this thing 5-10 years, maybe you can go and help those people like what you're doing now, but you just have to have that conversation with yourself. And I think outside of addiction, not enough people are able to have this conversation with themselves. Even if it's not about addiction, if it's about a career move or a relationship or some sort of starting point in their life where they need to improve. So the general theme of this podcast is personal growth. And I've said all the time, I've said, multiple times before now, that I think self-awareness can solve, or at the very least alleviate, most of the problems that we have. I mean, because it doesn't matter what you face in the world, you are going to have yourself is what you're taking into that battle. And so if you're not okay, if you're not on solid footing with yourself, if you can't trust yourself, if you're not comfortable with who you are, it's almost like you're destined to lose that fight.
Correct.
And I think it is a fight, because it's like, with the story you're saying, and a lot of us, the lives that we live, we have our own battle, we have our own fight, our own war that we have to fight. And it's like yourself, who you are, is the main thing. I mean, you can believe in a higher power, you can believe in that kind of thing. I certainly do, but it's like who you are going into that fight is going to be arguably, well, it's like the most important thing you have. And
right.
so yeah, I respect you for the self-honesty, because I think that's, I don't know, man. What do you think it was that kind of helped you get over this thing? Because I know in your book you talked about a connection to a higher power, and I think some people, like I said, I believe in a higher power. I would say that's what that means, but some people might hear that and say, "Oh, well, that means like a higher sense of purpose, like a mission, like something to do, just something greater than yourself, basically."
Correct.
So what do you think it was? And I know I don't even know if that question can be answered, man. I mean, what do you think it was that sort of?
It was in recovery. You also have to be careful with it, because you can say one thing or say God, and people they run the other way. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about church, and it's not about that. It's about. And you said, well, what was it? Did I have they talk about a reliance on a power greater than ourselves. I did to some extent, but I also had to take the actions, like you said. So you can't just sit back. Okay, I rely on a power, and that's it. Okay, nothing's happening. Yep. I'm doing it. Nothing's happening. Well, you know what? You're right, and nothing is. You just have to take the motions. You got to get up. Make your fucking bed if you never did. I know there's memes and stuff about it. And it's crazy. But people like us, you know what? Yeah, do that. Make your bed, or a half-ass to a pole. Like, again, it's a humble beginning. You don't have to tuck it in like you're in the Navy, but, pull it up or whatever. Because what happens, we start to feel, we feel proud of ourselves. We start to build a little pride, which gives us the motivation in the right path, because we already had the motivation to do the right thing and keep doing the next right thing. And pretty soon, as you're doing the next right thing day after day, and sometimes you stop and pause and you look around, and you're like, holy shit, not only do I finally have a car and a license again, you're from the South, you'll appreciate this one. but all fucking 4 tires are the same and have the same hub on them. That's unreal. That's the first time I've ever owned a car that has 4 of the same tires with matching rims on all 4 tires. I grew up in, I spent time in Orange Beach, Alabama at one point, and we used to pull engines over a tree limb with a come-along. His name was Billy, our buddy Billy. I remember dropping a engine out of a Volkswagen bus onto 2 skateboards and then jacked the ass end up and wheeled them out the back, rebuilt the top end and put it back in. Like, it wasn't pretty where I came from. So, you gotta try, you gotta try. And that's the thing. Our tolerance, my level of misery, Cody, is high. And that's the shitty thing. And for many addicts, it is. So when you're like, well, when did it come? How do you know? What was it when it changed? Reading my story and people hearing my story, that's like, well, God, I would have thought you would have been at that 9 years prior. Like, what more does a fucker go through? My level of misery is high, and that's scary. And a lot of people in recovery, they are. Where most normal people would be like, oh my God, I got a DUI. That was my second one. I really need to lay off the booze. It is a problem. Friends are telling you. People are smart, and they stop. Not this guy. Still got another Dewey, 3 and 10. The drugs flowing like a river. I just wasn't going to learn. And things are like, God, Rory, you're this inspiring chef. You're working at the top restaurant in Minnesota, the 510 in 1993, 1994, working as a sous chef, assistant to the chef. And what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? You're like you're a chef in a great restaurant that's on the news and in the magazines. Fuck, we were in Gourmet Magazine, on TV shows, on Post Bulletin, or not Post Bulletin, Star and Tribune. That drug, they talk about it being all powerful, about it being, we have no mental defense against that first drink or that first drug. I understand that comment. I understand that saying that they use in recovery. I had no mental defense. Nothing. Especially once I took a hit and it was in me, it was done. I couldn't stop. It wasn't a drug problem. It was a fucking stopping problem. And I hear people say that in recovery. I understand that saying. I couldn't stop once I started getting going. And what I was willing to do to get that next hit or get that next drink or do what I did was insane. And then to get here into life and the sobriety and be going along and be like, oh, this is so hard. This is bad. It's like, oh, come on. You got to get right with yourself. So that my pain and suffering had reached a point where I was willing to do something different. And that's it. And I had to listen to other people. I had to take, I didn't do it on my own. I had to take some advice. I had to listen to them. I went to little meetings and AA clubs and some people talked and I didn't really like them very much or what they had to say. And then others did. I'm like, oh, this guy knows. And I'll give you a good example. Indian Mike, early on, he was at the AA club. He was an old drunk Indian in his day. But he told me one day, or he didn't tell me, he's telling everything, but he told the story one day of, what really sucks when you wake up in the morning and you hear the noise, dun, 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 and you know that it's the cars on the top of the bridge. And you don't want to open your eyes because when you open it, you know what you're going to fucking see. And I sat in the back of the room in that AA meeting that day. And I'm like, ha, I like that guy. He knows what I know. And if you ain't fucking been there, you wouldn't understand what he's saying. That you're awake, but you don't open your eyes because you know what you're going to see. And so you're sitting there and you can hear dun, 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 as the cars are passing over the bridge. Yeah. I'm like, I need to get this guy to sponsor me. This guy knows. He knows what I know. He's been there. It ain't someone. I'm a graduate of, I've got a bachelor's of science in CD counseling and, thank you. And I'm so grateful to all the people that do that. And I'm grace of God that you even would be willing to do that. And there's so many millions of people that they will help. But when someone else who has been there, that knows about crumbing to get that last hit with your little burnt up fingers, putting it on the ash, scraping, cleaning out the Josie bottle with alcohol to get that last hit with a razor, burning it on a plate, to get that last little bell ringer that tastes like shit, to get that last hit jonesing out of your mind. People that have been there, they know all these things. You can't go to college to learn that. And so sometimes in recovery, not all the time, like I said, I'm not trying to diss all those people that have gone to college and help people. It's wonderful. Thank you. But we find that works best when one alcoholic helps another alcoholic or one drug addict helps another. And a lot of times what happens, these other people that go to school, they get us through the treatment centers and the halfway house. And then when we get out in the world, it's good to have that other person who is either an addict or an alcoholic, because you sit and you lie to everyone about everything all the fucking time. And if you don't have someone in your life that can be like, hey, you're hanging out down, listen to your buddies in the band quite a bit lately. Seems like you're doing that. You're down there all the time. And you said you and your wife are having trouble. You think that's a fucking good idea? And then all of a sudden a year later, your buddy's like, hey, thanks for saying that when you did, because I was going down a dark hole. And I think if you hadn't been straight with me like that, I don't know that I'd even be here today. And then you get a hug and maybe a tear shed.
So one of the things that I find fascinating, man, just having this conversation and hearing you talk about this, it's almost like, I'm going to go kind of on a far out tangent here.
Awesome.
It's almost like we exist in a timeline. Our personal self, you for you, yourself, me for myself, we exist on this timeline, and it's almost like there's a past and there's a future, but it's almost like, I've said this before too, what connects the two is us in the present. And that sounds simple, but it's actually a pretty profound thing, because in your conversation, what you're saying right now is it's like you were the person that you one day you needed in the past. Like, had the past you met the person that you are now, this person that's trying to help these people, like, dude, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm not going to say that's all that you needed, but it probably would have certainly helped for you to meet you today, you from the past to meet you today. But it's like that, and that's one of there's many reasons that I admire you, but one of the reasons that I admire you is you're able to have this compassion for people that I want to ask you about, because I think you're right. This is me personally. I would never go to a college business professor and learn about business unless this person has a successful business. I would much more likely go to the entrepreneur who's built it from the ground up. I would never go to a person who was struggling with their relationship, in and out of relationships, no long-term relationships, and ask them for relationship advice. I would probably go to the person who has had a healthy long-term relationship. And so, like with you, you're right. You have these psychologists and these people who have these degrees and that kind of thing, but there's not they're not going to have the connection to people, or at least they're not 100% the way that you are. And that's what I'm saying. I think you were the person that you needed, at that time. But I want to ask you about this compassion, because I feel like, you know where these people are, and maybe what they need, what they need to hear. Maybe what you needed to hear, and you're just trying to give that to people. I don't know. But what I find fascinating is that you had a business, or you have a business, or I think you said you had.
I sold it. Yep.
Yeah. So like, when I'm hearing this, man, how do you, because I have a landscaping company, so we're kind of in the trades industry, the blue collar thing, how do you deal with business, with whether it's employees or clients or whatever, and people are complaining, they don't show up because they didn't sleep well the night before. The paint in the living room is like 1% lighter than the paint in the dining room, and it's like, how do you hear this? And you've been through all this shit in your life, and you're like, dude, if you really want a problem, I can talk to you about a problem. Like, because I'll give you an example. We were doing a job for a guy one time, and this guy, I don't know what he did. He was something in the military, something with explosives, with the Army, I don't know. But something happened with the job that we were on, and objectively, it wasn't a huge deal, but a lot of people would have been upset by it. And I was talking to this guy. He said, listen, man, I've been in situations where you should stress before, because he did, in fact, work with explosives in the military. And he was like, I've been in situations where you should stress before, and this isn't one of them. So it's just like that. It's just like that inspiring, just ability to be present and say what actually is a problem. But anyways, so where do you find that, man? Like, these people that are around you, that you run into just in daily life, like, how do you find it in yourself to be compassionate with these people from all the shit that you've been through? And I think there was a story in your book where when you first got sick, you were like coughing up blood and still went to work. And and some people, like I said, they sleep 7 hours and 45 minutes instead of 8 hours, and they can't make it into work the next day because they didn't sleep enough. So I mean, where does this come from?
You know what? Like we talked about earlier, it was in my addiction. And yeah, I never missed a day at work. I had surgery on my spine, stage 4 lung cancer, chemotherapy, radiation, immunotherapy. I was actually in a wheelchair, a walker, and then a cane. and I never missed a day of work. Never missed a day of work. I took my ass in that wheelchair and took my ass into it. And I don't know if there was something crazy with me why I did that, but I'm proud of that. And I was able to get the dope. I was able to get up, and I brought my ass in there. The compassion for these people, oh my God, there's country songs about it, all kinds of kinds. There's all kind of people in the world. And I'm so horrible. I mean, that probably makes me the best and worst businessman at the same time, because I got played a couple times. And I would look at the one lady out in Caston, Minnesota. I remember looking at her, and I'm like, I know she's just playing me. I'm like, what can I do to make it right? Well, I just want different siding. Okay, so we resided the whole thing. Again, $3,000. And she was still not happy. And I just did it. I took the chip. I looked at it like this. As an addict, do I want to carry that? Resentment is the number one offender. It'll destroy more people in recovery than anything else. Carrying that would be being resentful. And you can just look at people in the world you meet that are resentful and angry and, oh, this, and fuck the government and fuck the president or that president or this one. Who cares? For me, anyhow. I don't. And so I have to decide. Now, I have things in my life and in my journey that happen. And sometimes, I had a current situation with a gentleman. I helped in recovery. I moved him in my home. He started using my basement. And so we haven't been talking for a while. And I said, hey, Nathan, I just need a little time. And the other morning I get up and there's a messenger or a message. Hey, you should, speaking into someone not letting go of resentments, maybe you should read your own book or whatever. He hit me with something. I'm like, man, this poor guy. And he could possibly be drinking again. I don't know. But I feel bad because I spent a year and I wanted to get angry. And I did, and it kind of bothered me for a little bit because I thought, man, I've been helping this guy for 2 years. I picked him up. I employed him. And then he started using in my house, in my basement, which was a ground rule. Once then it's over. And he's going to send some shit like that, but it doesn't matter. Is it more important for me to live happy, joyous, and free or be resentful? It's also like being right. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I'll look anyone in the eye with any situation in their life. And I don't care if something's very negative, but I'll be fair. I will be willing to look them in there and say, I ask you one thing. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Because you said it. Here I go with it. This bottle right here, think of it as a timeline. You can look at the bottom of the screen right there. And then this right here, this is when you die right here with the phone. And this is me, and you're younger. You're about right here. So this is when you're born. This is when you die. This is right in the middle. This is Cody, and this is Rory. This is all I have left, Cody. Right here. All this is gone. That's my past.
Mm-hmm.
This time here, what do you want to do with that? How do you want to spend it? That's what I can ask anybody in the world. And that's fine. You do what you want. Oh, I have a right to be mad. They took my shit and lit it on fire. Okay. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just telling you this. This is what you got left, especially someone like me that's getting a little older and has stage 4 lung cancer. Maybe I should actually go like that. Not to be a pessimist, but the odds are greater. I'm probably not going to live a long time than I am. It's all in my bones and blood. I'll never be in remission. So for me, maybe it's just fucking easier for me. Maybe today you're speaking to someone who is living with stage 4 lung cancer. So I look at life very differently because I probably really don't have a lot of time left. So all the shit that used to bother me and I cared so fucking much about doesn't mean shit. When I got my electric bill this month and they were charged a cable bill and they're like, oh, if it's $2, they raised it another $2.13. Did you get that? That's fucking horrible. Cody, I don't fucking care about that $2. I don't give a shit. And this is all I have left, most likely. This is when you're born. This is when you die. I'm here. I'm right here. This is it. So I can be mad. I'm not trying to unvalidate a situation. I'm not trying to invalidate something dramatic, like, oh, I was abused as a young boy. I'm not trying to invalidate it. I'm just asking you how the fuck you want to spend your time. And if you continue to carry that resentment and live like that, you'll be an unlovely creature. You'll be unapproachable. You'll be fucking upset and unhappy in everything you do, your business, your relationship with your wife or husband or whatever you're into. You'll never be fully happy because you carry that. So that's why when you watch fucking court TV and you see some lady come up, and I just get blown away by it, and walks up to the podium. Her son was killed by this guy who fucking ran into him on fucking 80 shots at the bar, who's completely guilty, and goes down to the mic, and I get emotional when I see this shit, and says, well, I'm very unhappy my son is gone, but I have to say this, Mr. Johnson, I forgive you. And I watch stuff like that, Cody, and I think, what the fuck? How do you do that? How do you? But I know now. I know. And maybe she is religious or something, fine, but I think it goes deeper than that.
Mhm.
That's great, and she might have learned, but I think it goes deeper because anybody can do this, and I've done it in my life. The simple fact is that do I want to carry that anger, hurt? I wish he'd die. That what that does to a person to be like that, to talk like that, to feel like that. Do I want to carry that with the last of my years that I have? I'm not saying we have to ignore it and say it's okay. It's not about that. And that's where people, they get defensive. Oh, you're not gonna? You forgave them? What's wrong with you? No, I almost want to say in a dickhead way, what's wrong with you? You're fucking 35 years old. Haven't you learned yet? Look at your best friend, Jay. He's a fucking asshole. And you know why he's like that. You even have a teacher in your life, your best friend, who's a fucking dick to everybody every day. You really want to be like that? Be careful. And people do that one to me too. They're like, oh, how can you have so-and-so work for you? Or you know so-and-so and he's so bad. What is that? I'm grateful for those people. They're my fucking teachers. They remind me every day how I don't want to be. And when I start getting off track, I think, Rory, you're only a step away from using and being like that person, unlovely, unhappy. And you said it earlier, you can't go and help everyone. Some people, they don't want to be helped. It doesn't matter what you say or do, they don't want it. And you know what? You can pray for them. You can, maybe keep a reasonable distance because they're the type of people in recovery talk about tornadoing through the lives of others. There's people that do that. Wherever they go, there's fucking damage, catastrophe, crying women, kids crying, just a mess. And so you have to be careful. I don't have to talk shit about that person. I don't have to be bad and negative and whatever, but I can also have what we like to call limitations and boundaries. I have a family member in my life, and I won't say anything past that, but a family member in my life, and he sometimes is really negative, and he's blaming and things like that. And I can do about an hour or two, and that's about enough, And I always love him, and I always think good things for him. But I don't need to be around that because Indian Mike taught me something a long time ago. He said, oh, Rory, guess what? What, Mike? What are you going to say, Mike? What did I do? How am I dumb? He always had some shit to say. He says, no, I just want you to know to be careful. Don't hang around shit too much. You'll start to smell like it. I'm like, what the fuck? I started looking at the bottom of my shoe. Like, what did I step in shit? What's he saying? And a lot of Indian Mike stuff, I never figured out right away. Now, 20 years later, I'm finally, like, it goes to show you how smart I'm not. It's 15, 20 years later. I'm like, oh, now I know what he meant. Again and again in the book. Now I know what he meant. Hey, Rory, your neck must hurt. Why, Mike? Why, Mike? Why does my neck hurt? What is it? What is it I'm doing wrong? What is it? You're always looking up and down to everybody. Maybe if you started looking at people, your neck wouldn't hurt so much. I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? He says, you either want to be like Joe in that brand new Corvette with the big booby girlfriend, blonde hair that's beautiful, or the guy in the corner that's holding a sign that's signing, he's a piece of shit and he needs to get a job. He says, how do you plan to ever connect with anybody? Why don't you start looking at people? And I thought, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Again, now 15 years later, he's right. And I know exactly what the fuck he meant. He was absolutely right. God, I just wish, I'm slow learners club, man. I mean, they were telling me this stuff 15 years ago.
Well, I think, yeah, I get that, but I think it's clear that you understand it now. I mean, I think that's one thing that's very clear. I want to backtrack just for a second because you were talking about problems and being reactive, how people react to different problems, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but you can tell a lot about a man by the size of the problems that he has. And so, I think people that have these, and you can interpret that however you want to interpret it. But I think people that, well, it's just like, if you're this kind of person that's bothered by, minute, very, really insignificant things. I mean, I think it just makes sense. Like it just makes sense versus if you're something, somebody who has $1.5 million business and you got all these things going on and you're fighting all these things in your life. And it's just, I think that the evidence is clear. Let me ask you this, man. How are you looking on time? How are we looking time wise on your end?
I'm fine, buddy. I got nowhere to be till 4.
Okay.
So I'm good.
Okay. All right. Let's do this because I did promise you a break and we've been so far into the conversation. I didn't even realize the time. Well, let's take a quick break really quick and we'll be right back because I got something else I want to ask you about before we close this thing out. So we'll take a break and be right back.
Okay, buddy.
All right.
I'm grateful too, Cody, very much. I really am, buddy. You seem like a real stand-up dude. So,
well, I knew when I like I said when we first talked, I didn't know that I was going to read the book. I just thought about it and I was like, you know what, and I know it sounds grandiose or like I'm trying to inflate my ego or whatever it is. I don't know. People can interpret it however they want to interpret it, but I just felt drawn to read the book, in which I did, and dude, it's just like it's really an incredible story.
Can I give you a little plug about it? A small plug?
Yeah.
So last week, it was only for about 48 hours, but we have it on paperback, audiobook, and digital. And digital, I think, is Kindle. Mm-hmm. For 48 hours, we were #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Wow.
And there's 32 million books on Amazon right now. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Is that fucking nuts? Some little fluff like me, some little drug addict. I'm not even shitting you. And it's on our Facebook page. You can creep it after we have our podcast, but it's on my Rory Londer speaker page. But it's pretty cool, buddy. Even though it went away like the next day, we woke up, we're like, damn, it's gone. But that's pretty, like, I'm good. I wouldn't, if nothing ever else happened, that was pretty flattering, man. That's fucking cool.
I think it's one of many achievements that you have. I don't know, man. I feel like it's such an incredible story that is I know it was painful at times and may still be at sometimes, but I think it's those things that kind of make us who we are. But I want to touch on this before we close out. So all these things that you've been through, the addictions, the sleeping in the crack houses, the building the business, beating the addiction. Now you're happily married. How long have you been married?
10 years.
Yeah. Happily married for 10 years, all these things, man, just this incredible story. And so now you're at a place where, you have this diagnosis that comes up. And so where do you find it? Because there's a lot of people that would be in your situation that would just absolutely give up and just let it go to hell and just say, you know what, it doesn't matter anyways. I may or may not have a lot of time left, whatever it is. I was talking to a psychiatrist on here, Dr. Fred Moss, and he was talking about if you tell people, they have 24 hours to live, depending on the person, it would be different for everybody. Some people might have a very busy 24 hours. Some people might immediately go into whatever the vice is they have for themselves, the sex or the drugs or whatever it is. Some people, might just go blow their life savings. I mean, whatever it is, people would just spend those 24 hours different. But then you have somebody like you who's continuing to do the right thing. You're continuing to do what you think is the just from the outside looking in, just from everything that you've been through and how you're saying this, what this means to you, it sounds like this is the meaning, it seems like, to all this, is to go off on a little tangent. I don't know if you've ever read the book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
I haven't.
So he was in the Holocaust. He was a Holocaust survivor. And he talks about basically putting a meaning in the suffering. What do you let it mean to you? Are you just going to sit there in the Holocaust and just be, like you said, resentful about it? Or is there some kind of meaning you're going to find? I think we can all find meaning in any kind of suffering or pain, whatever it is. And that significantly changes what that thing means to us. But so you're doing this thing, man, where a lot of people would have just given up and just, said, you know what, the hell with it, whatever. But not you, not you.
They say one of the sayings we'd hear a lot was, from great suffering comes great love. And it gives us the ability to love and appreciate. And I think that it kind of designed me. All the stuff I've been through designed me to make me the man that I am today, to be grateful, to be, to not let all things affect me as much. And it's not that they don't. I have moments. I'm a human being, but it's not like it used to be. And that's the thing, that there's a little bit of progress, that we're trying to improve a little bit. And sometimes even people take a step back. But I've been through a lot in my lifetime, and oof. People would say everything happens for a reason. That one was a tough one for me, Cody, for a lot of years. People would say, "Oh, God don't give you more than you can handle. Everything happens for a reason." And I'd sit and think, "Nah, I don't know if I'm the guy you should be telling that," because I can tell you my story, and you're going to be wondering if God knows me so well, why would He have all this happen to me? Today, I look at it like this. I have a team of doctors that can't explain why I'm still here. And so I look at it like this, that my higher power, my thing, spiritual thing that I call God. But I feel like He's done this. He's like, okay, Rory, you're not a fucking cat, although it would seem like it, all the lives that you've gotten. But you're going to get some time. And it's not to go out and get more stuff, but it's to help people. And I don't hear voices. It's nothing like that. But I really believe in my soul this gift that I've always had, this ability to connect with other people, people in recovery, people in addiction. I would even speak at our local little A clubs, and people are like, "Oh my God, you're a good speaker. You should consider that, or they should make a movie about your life." Or people even joked, 10 years ago, they should write a book, down at the clubs and the treatment centers and people, wherever places I've been. And I feel that I have reached my purpose, and sadly, I think cancer. And I say this sometimes, even when I speak, and I don't want to say this in a sad way or make people feel bad, but it's fucked up. I want to validate cancer, because cancer pushed me into this momentum or motion of what I'm doing. So was it really all that bad? Yeah, it sucked, but you nailed it. I had a choice to go down to the river right outside my house and have a little sandy beachy area on the river. And I went down there and I snot bubbled and cried and I was throwing shit. Oh, and I was thinking, well, I could go fucking hang myself in my shed. And I thought, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for my wife and my daughter, my goddaughter, my godson, all these people close to me. And I'm going to fight. I fought all my life. Why would I give up now? Why would I go curl up in a fucking ball? I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fight. So I fought, and I went back in front of my doctors, and they said, Rory, we're going to fight this as best we can, and we want you to fight with us. It's exactly what they said. And I looked at them, and I like to swear, and I'm like, you have no fucking idea who I am. Let's fight. And now they look at me like, he wasn't kidding. We don't even know what's going on. We can't even scientifically explain it. But I'm not going to give up. And I don't know if I got 10 days, Cody. I don't know if I got 10 years, and I don't care. I'm tired of doing that too. Tired of going online reading stage 4 lung cancer, expected rate of. Oh my God, that'll just make you sick, man. You got to just leave all that alone. So every day I get up and I'm going to keep going, and not to try and plug the book. I won't. It's a speaking. But in the 7 months since this book released, as a result, the podcast, the speaking engagements, the traveling, the going to different states, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, these big events, all this stuff. Oh my God. If I only have 10 days left, what I've been able to do in the last 7 months is I've achieved everything. And knowing that I was sick, you talked about like spending money or doing this. Instead, I took everyone that was close to me and I said, where do you want to go? Anywhere in the world. And I said that to my goddaughter. My goddaughter said, Roro, I want to go to Disney World. I'm like, okay, McKenna, we're going to go to Disney World. And then I went to my godson. I said, where do you want to go, Landon? He says, I want to go on a Disney cruise. I'm like, fuck, we're doing a lot of Disney. So we went on a Disney cruise. And then I went to my wife, and I went to my brother and his kids. Where do you guys want to go? We want to go to the Galapagos Islands. We went to the Galapagos Islands off Ecuador. Holy fuck, was that cool. My daughter, I want to go to New Orleans and go down in the South where you used to live and go through Alabama and Jacksonville and all the places you live. So I took my daughter through all those areas and we hung out. Cody, I've had a wonderful, people get sick like I do and they never get these opportunities. Mm-hmm. If God told me today's your last day, I don't ever want my wife or anyone to hear this, but I'm cool, man. I have lived and achieved and accomplished and overcome some of the greatest things in this world. I'm at peace, man. What I worry about is everybody around me. Their pain and their fear of losing me and how much they'll hurt. That's the only thing that bothers me. It doesn't bother me that I'm going to die. It really doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, man, you know, I think a great man is a great man because he's able to say the people that are around him are taken care of because of what he does or does not do. So again, congratulations on being a great man. Dude, I think so. I have a sleeve tattoo on my arm. You can't really see the upper portion. The upper portion is a rising phoenix coming out of the flames, which of course the message there is that we're reborn from adversity. You know, the phoenix is reborn from the flames. He's stronger. He's better than he was before. But this bottom portion is, I don't know if you can tell what it is. It's a knight slaying a dragon. And, you know, we hear this mythical story. We hear this, you know, the knight is brave and the dragon guards the treasure and this kind of thing. But this is a metaphor, because if we're being honest with ourselves, everybody has, I would say, at least 10 dragons in their life to slay, but we all have one major dragon. And again, if we're being honest with ourselves and having a conversation with ourselves, we all have a major dragon to slay. And it's no accident that in that story, the dragon guards the treasure, because when you slay the dragon, you get the treasure.
Yeah.
And that fight, that battle is a hard battle. And it's something that hero has to do to get that treasure, to become his best self. And it's like, you're the real life hero, man. Like you have lived this story for yourself. Like you have fought this dragon and slayed this dragon and overcome this thing. It's like you are a hero in the most fundamental sense of the story. You're this hero. You're the hero to your past self, and the people who are in that space that you used to be now have you. You didn't have this person. You didn't have the person that you are now, but now you're taking all this pain and all the shit and everything that's happened. You're taking that and you're using it in a way that's helpful and productive to somebody else's success and sobriety and fulfillment in their life. And that's incredible. I can't think of anything else that would be a bigger achievement than that.
Exactly. And that was my point. From what the social media says is my story has come to inspire, lift, and give hope to people around, and I'm going to use this term very strongly because I get to, around the world. We've sold in 5 countries now, outside of the United States of America. I can't make that shit up. So you're right. What more is there? Tell me. Anybody tell me. What more? What more worth, value, sense of being at peace? What more can I do? And so that's where I'm at right now. And that's where I feel okay with everything. That my past, all the suffering, all the pain, all that shit has all been worthwhile in a sense. It happened for a reason. I understand it today. I would not be able to do what I do right now if I didn't. I have no anger, resentment, poor me, or I'd spent years doing shit like that. None of it. Everything, all my whole life's been validated to this moment that I'm living right now and what I'm doing. And I've been emotionally moved off my feet, and I can continue to be every day. Every day, every week goes by, something else happens. And I'm going to keep going, Cody, until the time runs out and the clock stops. This is how I'm going to spend my time. I sold my business. I have a smaller little property business and a couple other things, but I have the ability to spend my time doing this, speaking, going on podcasts, talking to people, still going into the schools, talking to the kids. As I go around and speak, people on 3 occasions in our state are like, well, okay, we want you to come like every 3 months, and we're going to make a little course up. And they're getting all excited. And you need to keep coming back. And like, whoa, hold on. Let me just figure everything out for a year and then we'll talk. But to know that people, they're like, enjoy me that much, besides my wife, I'm so hardcore. And I talk about, recovery, get right with yourself. But to know that people admire that and like that, I'm completely flattered. I'm just dumbfounded. And I say this to the co-author in the book, Sweeta, but I say to her often, because we really had no intention, because we didn't have a plan, we didn't try and do this because we thought it would help people do what it's doing. That's probably why it is. Isn't that fucked
Yep.
up? But I really believe it. That's why it's working, because we didn't. All we did is I did this. I looked at her when she said, Rory, I think I'm supposed to write your story. And I said, okay. And I turned to her and I always get choked. I said, okay, but here's the deal, sweetheart. I'm going to fucking tell you everything. And you do with it what you want, but I'm not leaving nothing out. I'm tired of living my whole life that way. I'm going to fucking tell you everything I've been through, all the stupid shit I've done. I don't care what other people think of me. Oh, you're a business owner. You got to be careful. I don't care. And cancer made that possible, as messed up as it sounds. And that's why I say it's weird to validate something negative. But cancer made that possible for me, because I thought, you know what, I'll be here maybe another year. I don't care. I'm going to tell this gal everything, because if it's really helping these kids and helping people, I'm going to tell her, because she's going to take the book and use it at her little school here in ALC. We didn't know it'd go all around the fucking world. We didn't anticipate any of this. And so I keep doing it, and it keeps growing. And I've never been more grateful in my life. And my brother Tim said it best. He said, Rory, right before it released, I talked to him on the phone. He said, well, it doesn't matter if anything comes of it or not. And I said, it doesn't, Tim. We're excited to do it. He said, but at minimum, at least you have a legacy of your life. And I'm like, I never thought of it like that. I have a legacy of my life. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And gosh, I want to make this important distinction when we talk about this hero and we talk about this story and we talk about all these, like this legacy. I just feel like it's supposed to be hard, man. Like if you watch any hero movie, if you've ever played a video game, you get to the final level, the boss always has more health than you do. It's always harder it's always going to be hard, but it's also always worth it. Like this whole thing, I talk a lot on here about the process, and like becoming who you become in the process is a lot more important than the destination that you think it leads to. And it's like, dude, you've become this person through this life that you're like, it's just like this person that's not defeatable. Like it's just undefeatable person. Like all this shit that's happened, and it can't slow you down. It's not going to stop you. It hasn't stopped you. And a legacy, that is a perfect way to word it, because that's the kind of thing that lives on forever, man. That lives on like that energy and that personality and that person never goes away. I mean,
No.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens. And like and then you're inspiring these people, and who knows how many people the book has reached, and your speaking engagements and all that kind of thing. I mean, it's just, like, this is something that's going to continue to exist and continue to help people for a long time. I feel like a long time. And
yep, even after I'm gone.
Yeah. I mean, this is mind blowing because 99% of people in this position, I feel like, well, let's just be honest, most people probably wouldn't make it here. I'm sure you've known people and were friends with people or close with people who unfortunately are not here anymore, just because of the life or lifestyle or bad decisions or whatever it was. But you're here, and other people are here, and because of you and what you're doing, and it's incredible. I can't wrap my mind around that what I read in this book is a true story and not something that whoever wrote the superhero movies wrote. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
like this is like it's insane, because
Yeah.
I've known people who have worked through addictions and that kind of thing, and it's just. I want to be careful how I word this. Sometimes I don't really know how to help those people. I don't know if there's anything I can say I don't know what to say to this person. I don't know how to be there for this person. I don't know, I don't, and I feel guilty about that because I don't know what to say. And I feel like what I do say is going to make the situation worse. And it's like what.
So I got to interrupt you, because that's, even this teacher, she's like, Rory, so this one troubled student, and when all the other teachers want to kick him out, and he's a bad kid. And it's like, no, he's the kid that actually needs the love the most. He's the most fucked up. Let's think about this for a minute. So, let's call him Fred, or we'll call him Joe. well, Joe's bad and starts fights and whatever, and all the other teachers don't like him, and we need to get rid of him. Whoa. He needs the most love.
Yep.
And then you come to find out Joe's dad kicks the shit out of him every weekend. He gets drunk and beats up his mom and then beats him up. And you're thinking you need to kick him out because he's a bad kid. Yeah, he's a bad kid. And it doesn't justify it. But then when you hear someone's story and you feel like shit after they tell it to you, and you think, we're trying to kick this kid out, he needs the most fucking love. And Sweeta asked me one time, she's like, well, Rory, what do I say to him? Don't, like, people are like, oh, hey, Joe, how's your weekend? Oh, no. Just say hi. It's like going to a funeral. Oh my God, Mrs. Johnson, I'm sorry you lost your husband. How are you doing? No, whoa, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
If you need something, we're here for you. Joe, hi. We have some Snickers. Do you want one? Don't, be careful what you fucking ask or say. These kids in these schools that are in that type of a school, it's for a reason. Unless you really want to know the answer, you got to be careful. And so as years went by and she's listening to me and recording me, she's going into class, as you read, and using some of these ideas in her classroom. And she says in the end of the book, she says, I had some of the best relationships in my 15 years working there using these ideas. And these are ideas I learned from people in recovery and from the streets, and just ideas that come into my mind I learned along the way. And she's like, they're the best relationships I ever had with students. I'm like, wow. Okay, that's cool. And she's like, no, you're not understanding. 15 years I've taught here, and I've my best relationships. And it's that's another gift, to think that I'm sharing with this gal and that she's using some of these ideas and this is working for her. I'm like, oh my God. So it doesn't have to just be addiction. It's just about life in general and people. We grow up, we're ingrained to learn things a certain way. As men, be tough and don't show emotion. Don't this or don't that. And there's all these like basic rules or whatever we live by. Oh, I don't know if they're all correct. And I'm not saying I'm the defiant one and, screw the rules and all this. No, it's not about that at all. Just, I don't know if all those things are actually probably the best way, because as the world's become kind of shitty and the people in it we become so diverted and divided and so much stuff going on. Maybe we do need to do things a little bit. And I'm not saying one side's wrong and the other's not, or this side's right and they're wrong. It's nothing to do with that. Just each individually as people, so we can live a more whole, happy life and have better connections with those around us and in the world we live. That's all. It's fucking, like, I think we learned that when we're a kid, but as we go along in life, we forget that stuff and we change, and then we ingrain these ideas and thoughts that, no, it's got to be this way, and you think like that, and you're wrong and I'm not. What about this great love, man? What about those moments in your life? If you ever were to go to a person and say, I want you to tell me a story in your life of a person or someone where's your greatest love. And it might be that first girl in high school. Oh my God. And I seen her and she was so beautiful. And we talked for hours and stay up till 11 o'clock at night. I was under the blanket in my bed on the phone, just hiding. So my mom wouldn't know. And anywhere I could go with her. And I was just so at peace. Okay. Where were you mentally in your mind to be able to be that and be open and have a love like that? It ain't where you are now. And that's why in life today, as we get older, things are the way they are. We're damaged and scarred, baggage. There's all this stuff. And I'm going on a tangent, Cody. You can erase all this out later.
No, you're good, man.
But this is it. But it is. And as I get older, I'm like, holy fuck, it is. Because then I have all these ideas and that's all right. And she doesn't do that. Well, then I don't like her. We get all this stuff and we almost have to immature ourselves or premature and base it back. But the benefit is it's keeping it simple. All this complicated shit and all this stuff we believe, some of it's polluted us. And so we've gotten these ideas and instincts and behaviors that keep us from connecting with people, that keep us from having a fruitful, I love her and she's a good wife, but you know what she needs to do? Boom, expectation. Now you're setting yourself up. But that's what we do. And so I'm sitting back here just watching, and that's all. I don't think I have some great knowledge or anything, but just as I watch these men and people in my life, and my own life, it's like, I think, sometimes we got to tone it down a little bit and keep it more simple and not keep it so complicated and not have expectations. It's a very dangerous place. And then we have these unhappy, unfulfilled relationships with men, women, whatever, friends. I think we need to do things different. We really do. I do in my life. I look at it when I get off track. I see that I I like to be easy on myself, so I say there's some areas that I could have some room for improvement. That's how. Then it's not so like you need to fucking do this. You know how we respond to that. We don't. So if we just
Right.
say, yeah, maybe I have a little room for improvement in that area. Hey, it's a start. So
we could keep talking forever. I feel like I'm gonna let you get out of here shortly. I do have two other questions I want to ask you, and I know that for anybody who hasn't read the book, I don't want to spoil it too much, but you write a letter, I think, to an addict, a person struggling or maybe recovering. What do you think you would say? What would your message be to a person who is struggling, whether it's addiction or a weight issue or a health issue or a family member issue, any kind of issue or battle? Because like I said, we all have these battles in our life. What do you think it is that you would say to a person who's going through that, who just feels that what you felt, who feels that you don't know where you want to be, but this isn't it? What would you say to the person who just replays that sentence over and over in their head? I don't know where I want to be, but I know this isn't it.
yeah. So there in the book we have a little note similar to that already, but if I had to write a note to them, I'd just let people know that your life can change. That, like I said earlier, your past doesn't have to define you. And you can build a new life and start over and be okay. You can find strength, hope, and happiness. Things can change. I think there's a ton of dynamics in it. Just, hey, and it doesn't matter if it's health, like me, with cancer, with addiction, with homelessness, with failed relationships. People struggle with many different things. And then it could be food, gambling, weight, that you can change, but it's going to take some work. That's the thing. I'm not going to bullshit you and tell you, hey, everything can be great. You can be fine. You got to work though. You were willing to feed that addiction. So now this is where I'm going to catch you on your shit. You're willing to feed your addiction, hide the bottle and do this and lie and do whatever. Plan on putting a little work into the recovery side or the opposite, the yang of the yin. Be willing to put in, we put into effort into running to the casino once the husband got to work and you're running down there, whatever. Everyone's got these bad stories, but you can also put that effort and energy in and turn it into a positive. It can change and you can have a great life. And it doesn't matter if you're a goddamn felon. People will say, oh, I believe all that, but I'm a felon. I'll never bullshit. I've fucking robbed gas stations with my finger. I got put in a jail in Mexico. I took the American consulate to get me out of the fucking country back here. I've been on all this different shit that I've done in my life. And I've built a great, fruitful life. Take that drive and energy that's deep down in every one of us and use it rightly. And you said that earlier, but use it rightly. Use it for something positive. And when it's not. When you're fucking dipping in that cookie jar. You know it, I know it. And you're reaching and you know what you're doing. Don't do it. It's almost like your mama yelling at you when you're a little boy. Get that fucking hand out of there. And if you want to dip in there, you know what, then do it. But then don't fucking expect this. Don't look me in the eye and say, oh, my life's not going good and I'm there and you had said it would get and nothing's happening. Fuck you. Get right with yourself. Get honest with yourself. Because if you can do that, you'll know a life that you've never known. You'll be able to you'll stand at a point in your life, wherever it may be, in your backyard, on a fucking riverbank, with eagles flying, whatever. And you'll have tears start running down your eyes. I've seen this 100 times. And you'll think, I've never been happier. I've never been happier than I am right now. And that's a cool thing to feel. And it's not about stuff. Just being at peace and okay and knowing, feeling, and even have a little plan, or, you don't have to have your whole life figured out, but, make plans. It's okay. Make plans. Set some goals. Don't make them big. Don't set yourself up. Don't make a big goal and then you don't reach it. Oh, I'm worthless and I can't do shit. Just make little goals. Little goals. Like, hey, tomorrow, I'm still not going to fucking make my bed, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually flip my pillow flat and just pull the blanket up to it. That's it. That's enough. Yay. That's fucking awesome. Set little goals for yourself. Even as minor as they are, it doesn't matter. Just knowing that, then you can say, I set a goal, I accomplished it. That'll give you some faith and hope. You can actually inspire yourself. You don't always need someone else telling you, oh, you look so good and you're doing so great. I think some of us, we thrive on that. It's not always necessary. You can do it to yourself and make yourself feel good. It's wonderful. Try it sometime. All right.
Yeah, that keeping those commitments to yourself, man. I'm so glad you touched on that because I talk about it a lot too. You know, it's almost impossible to state how powerful that is to keep those commitments. And if you start small, you do a thing, then you do something else, then before you know it, you have some momentum set up, and you can trust yourself. All right. So one last thing, and maybe you just touched on it here. If you could share one of the most powerful or one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, and I'm sure you have many, man, but if you could share one of the most valuable lessons you've ever learned, it could be from your life, your personal life, business, or whatever you're comfortable sharing. What do you think that would be? What's one of the most valuable lessons you've ever learned?
There's a bunch of them, so that's a tough one. Um, I'm going to share this one with you. Being a part of, not sitting in my little world, my routine, like, oh, I'm doing good, and I work out, and I go to the gym, and my business is flourishing. I'm doing great, and that's great. That's you, me. I say in my book talk about that. Me. It's all about me. I wake up in the morning, what I want to do, whatever. But being a part of. When I got to Rochester, Minnesota, from Dakota County Jail, my third DUI, they said you either got to get a job or work at the volunteer. And so I went around a couple places. I ended up at the Ronald McDonald House. I went in the Ronald McDonald House, and they said, oh, you got to fill out this background check. And I'm like, well, that's going to suck. So I filled it out, gave it to them. And they said, okay, why don't you go down and get the little pop tab cans? They used to take the tops off cans and put them in little boxes in stores. And that was what the Ronald McDonald House, whatever it did. And so I did that, and I stocked the refrigerators. And there's this couple that came in every Friday when I volunteered my time, and they'd read a book. They'd get up in front of all the kids, and the kids would all gather around in the big room, and they'd read a book. And the next Friday I came to volunteer, and the staff said, hey, Rory, the couple that usually comes, they can't make it tonight. Do you want to read to the kids? And I thought, yeah, like, I'm fucking awesome. Like, whatever. I mean, I was like, of course, I have no, like, doing anything or getting up in front of people, never a problem for me. Like, no problem. So anyhow, I got up there and I read this book. And I started jumping up on chairs and jumping up and down and climbing just like a crazy man. In the kids' eyes, you know, these kids, they have Lou Gehrig's and cancer and brain tumors. They're sick. It's around them. They're really sick, like really, really sick. And these kids are smiling and they're looking at me and laughing. And that feeling, Cody, was pretty cool. And so the next Friday came and I went to the library in our town, and the library ladies, I told them what I was doing. And so they'd get all these books and lay them out. And Thursday I'd go to pick a book up, and the gals were like, Rory, we got 4 books for you. One's about this train that's going up a hill. Another one's about this dolphin that's doing. And I'm like, good, I want a lot of action. And I'd go to this, Ronald McDonald House in our town on Friday, and I'd walk in the door. And the second I walked in the door, you could hear the kids start yelling, Rory's here, Rory's here, Rory's here. And you could hear it yelling throughout the building. And these kids would come running down to see me, homeless drug addict, unlovable creature. And I was like a big deal to them. And that feeling of being part of something, to feel like I mattered through all this years in the streets, I was like, I was a big deal, man. Maybe it was to a bunch of little sick kids, but it fucking meant more to me in my life than a lot of shit I've ever done. The next Friday I came back, and this couple came up to me. And they said, hey, we just want to let you know our daughter, she didn't make it. But her last days, all she did was talk about you. And how much you made her laugh. Fuck. And how important that was to her. We can't thank you enough. Whatever that was in that dynamic of that situation fucking changed me as a man and helped make me the person that I am today, without any doubt. So I want to say this. even if it's once every 6 months, but go do something. Go do stuff for someone else. Go volunteer. Go volunteer at the shelter in your town, even though it's like, fuck, that's going to suck. Go do it. Something happens in it. There's a gift in it that you get. And I feel like I'm giving the world a secret sharing this, but it's one of the greatest things that ever happened in my life. And it's something you don't want to miss. Okay.
Pretty powerful experience, man. I remember reading that part of the book. I think you said that something along the lines of you were like a hero to them, but really they were yours.
They were.
You know.
Yep. You got it, buddy.
Yeah,
It's unreal.
Incredible, man. Listen, I appreciate your time here. I want to just, and again, if anybody's listening that is planning on reading the book, we talked about this earlier, but I want to read just the last line of this book because I think it's very profound. You said, "What will we choose while it's still a choice?" And I can't think of anything that's more appropriate than a last line to a book than that, because even if it's at a point where it is no longer a choice, what's the choice going to be from here out? You know, what's the choice? What is the choice you're going to make? You know, maybe you didn't make a good choice to begin with, and maybe now it's no longer a choice, or maybe it's not even an addiction. You know, maybe you're dealing with the health situation. What's the choice going to be? Or are you just going to throw your hands up in the air and say, you know what, I'm just going to, you know, be just a delinquent and just, you know, live my last days to the fullest, or are you going to make something of those days? And I think the choice that we all have is a choice of how we're going to move forward from here, regardless of what the circumstances are. And I think it's clear that you're operating from this space of, I don't know how to describe it other than a higher purpose, because I think you clearly have a higher you have a higher power on your side. I think what you're doing is just, it's incredible, and I respect you for that. I admire you for that. And I respect you and admire you for being here today and sharing this with us. And this is going to be a big thing, man. This is huge, you know.
Thank you, buddy.
And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Hang out for just a second. I'm going to talk to you about the upload situation, but where can people find you? Do you have a website or anything?
Yeah, we have a website at www.shouldhavebeendead.com. And then we have a Facebook page, Should Have Been Dead, or my personal speaker page, like where I go speak and things that are going on, events page, my next event, where it is. And that's Rory Londer Speaker on Facebook. So those are probably the three main things. Or if not, you can just Google. If you just Google the book, Should Have Been Dead, it's unreal. The whole Google just lights up with all this stuff and TV interviews. It shows Facebook. It shows all this different stuff. It shows people already reselling books in other countries. In Australia, you can buy a used Should Have Been Dead book for $4. I seen that yesterday. Like, I don't even know what's going on. And I don't mean to keep talking on it, but it's just, I'm just odd because I'm sitting up here being the person that I am, trying to do the best I can with what I got. And we did this, and now I look at stuff like that and I think, man, this is messed up. Like, this is crazy. Like, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And now all I can think, and this is a little bit selfish, God, I'm getting emotional. But I see stuff like that and I think, man, I wish my parents were still alive. Or if they could be here for just 1 minute and show them that I changed my ways and I did good and became a good man. And I didn't put myself first anymore. That'd mean everything, but it's just not the case. But when I see that, I don't think, look at me, look at this. I think about that. I think I wish my parents could see it. And I hope more people get this message, and it helps to give them hope and inspiration, as it has over 5,000 so far that we know of.
That's actually a pretty good point, man. So my mom passed away about 6 years ago, And I sometimes I think that same thing. You know, I wish that she could be here to see the, and you know, what to me I feel like are good things that I'm doing personally in my life. But you know, I think that people, even though we can't see them, they can see us from a different place. I think that people can see us from a different space of existence. And you know, it sounds so cliche, man, but I'll never forget, like at her funeral, you know, there was like a rainbow off in the distance, and you know, there was like a dove flying up, and it's just the simple things, a breeze or whatever, you know, on a random breeze on a hot day. But I think that these people's existence never truly leave. It's just a part of them. The what we see them as and how we know them is what leaves. Because I believe that this body we have, this is just a vehicle. You know,
Yeah.
it's what's behind the scenes that's really who we are. And that I do think that's eternal. I don't think that ever, you know, quote unquote dies, so to speak. I think that continues to live on. It's just in a place that we can't experience in this form of existence. So I think that I think these people are able to see these things, man. And I think for me, at least for me personally, I know that, you know, some of the things that I'm doing that she and my grandmother and other people that have passed on, I think that they would be proud. And certainly, I know certainly your parents would be proud of you, man. I think that much is clear.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the inspiration. And just continue kicking ass, man. I know you're going to. You're doing the biggest things any of us can do. So I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Hey guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. If you enjoyed this podcast or enjoyed this episode, you can find more at Pure Wisdom Podcast. This is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple and Google Podcasts. There you can subscribe, like, and share and interact with all of our content. Again, we appreciate it, and we will see you next time.